Good evening, everyone, and welcome to On the Wrong Lead presents Saratoga Daily. I am Mark, and today it's just me. Everybody else was sort of busy. It is a Saturday after all, and not all of us are sitting around with nothing to do except for creating horse racing content. So here goes. So what happened today at Saratoga? A couple of big things. If you are following some of the major divisions, Sister Charlie in the Ballston Spa ended up finishing third. I think we talked about her being vulnerable on some of the pods on Thursday or on the live stream, and she did show that she was. I don't think the Boston Spa is a minus 16th. I don't think that's the distance she really wants. I think she wants to go further. Starship Jubilee beat her, and Starship Jubilee is a really good sort of that mile and a 16th distance. So I think she just got beat by a horse that's a little bit more of a distance specialist. Sister Charlie is coming off a crazy long layoff. She's got nothing left to prove here, and didn't run bad. Just didn't quite win a winning race. She was a little flat at the top of the stretch, and didn't have her normal kick getting home. My takeaway from there is that I would bet you Chad was using this as a tune-up race to begin with. I bet you there was something. There's a further target down the line. It wouldn't even surprise me if they pointed towards something like the Arlington Million with her. I think she's got the chops to be able to compete with some of the best in that division. But I think Starship Jubilee comes out, looks great. But I don't think I don't think that race made Sister Charlie look bad. I actually think you're going to get a better price next time out wherever she lands, and she should be fairly competitive wherever that may be. Second big takeaway was Volatile in the Vosberg. This race is sort of a very interesting one. Volatile was something like 2 to 5 on the board. Took absolutely just taking tons of money. He was a big hype horse. Everybody was behind him. Uh, and he won by probably a length and a half in the end. But I think this is sort of the race within the race. Lexingtonian scratched at the gate. He flipped in the gate. I think he's fine, but it very much changed the pace complexity of the race. And Valda was able to go a 23-second opening quarter, which at 6 furlongs and in a G1 is absolutely crawling. Top of the stretch, Ricardo Santana. It seemed like everybody was just kind of sitting around watching what Valladolid would do. Santana had very much first move on him, and quite honestly, the distance between first, second, and third just was pretty consistent. Whitmore ran his race, one big sort of prolonged run. I think everything you're going to hear about on Twitter and on DRF and wherever you read is about Valtel had this crazy fast closing quarter. Well, yeah, when you're freaking walking, of course you're going to have those a lot of come home speed, and I think personally, my takeaway is that I can't wait to fade Voladol next out, as long as he catches a race with some pace pressure. He's still never faced pace pressure, never had to actually put some effort in, and I think he's very, very vulnerable. He's gonna, in his next race, he's probably going to be, less than even money, depending on where they bring him back. And I would assume, again, he'll be probably a 3 to 5, 4 to 5 shot wherever he lands against whatever company. And I think he's the type of horse that you want to take sort of a stand against, assuming some other pace signs up. Another nice thing was, we had recorded a bunch of content yesterday, and that content was really good stuff, but it was a little more technical. And so I wrote up, and I didn't really ever get to put in my own plays what I wanted to do for the day. And so I put up a pick three on the blog, threw it up on Discord a bunch, and it scored. It was pretty nice payout. It was an early pick three at Saratoga. Base bet investment, paid $53 for the dollar if you played it as a $1 wager, and if you played the structure that I put up exactly, for a $100 wager, it paid back $477. So you're getting about 4x return on your money. That's pretty darn good on a sequence that I thought was fairly chalky, and it was, except for I was able to get around Sister Charlie. So yeah, I know a lot of people posted that they had taken advantage of that and made some money off from it. So I was really happy that kind of everybody won, and I look forward to kind of doing a few more of those again. I'll write them up as blog posts instead of necessarily doing them as as a full blown video. Things I noticed today on the track, on other races, turf speed is still terrible. You do not want to be on the front end of these turf races, especially turf routes. And speed I think was a little better on the dirt than it has been the first, however many were, many days of the meet we're into now. We're already at our set for second Saturday, but I still think on the dirt you don't want to be a pace presser. I think you want to be off, kind of invent that pocket trip. Obviously, Valdo won off the front end, but he was able to very much manipulate the pace. They went crazy slow early, and I think that race is a little bit of an aberrant because of that. So let's. I know I had gotten some feedback from some people that they wanted a little bit more technical. They wanted me to dig in a little bit more into how I'm coming up with these sequences I'm coming up with. So when I'm looking at sequences to play, I always like to have a horse I can build around, and that can be, this is especially at Saratoga. It can be somebody like a Sister Charlie, where you maybe say, "Geez, I think she's a definite win," or it can be like somebody like Sister Charlie, where you can say, "Geez, I think she's vulnerable, and I want to try to get around her," which is what I did with the pick three. But I played it in a way where if she did win, we still would get paid. If you played the exact structure I had, you would have had twice the amount of money on Sister Charlie that you would the rest of the field. So you would have gotten your money back, and you would have actually made a little bit of a profit. You just did better the way it ended up. And so I like to find those horses I can be a little binary and I can build around. And I'm not necessarily a single, but just a horse I have a strong opinion about. Or the other thing I really like to find at Saratoga is a lot of times in these big fields, and I'm looking at the third race for Sunday here. You have a pretty good field in here. This should fill as a full field of 12, two AEs, so more than likely it fills. In these big fields, I love that a lot of times I can cut these down and really only like a couple of horses. So in this third race, the probably the very very short priced favorite will be this 10 horse, the Road to Meath, I think you say is how you say the name. Chad Brown horse. If you look at the figures, this horse has been sort of running in those low to mid 80s figures. And as you go, through the rest of the field here, no one else really has been doing that. So the horse just kind of jumps out in figures, and these are the kind of horses that I like to build structure around. A horse has been gelded since last time out, and that was in March. So you had a couple months away off of gelding. Oftentimes that can be an improvement angle. Horse will focus a little better. Haven't seen workout reports. They were a little late to come out today, so when they come out, I'll reevaluate this and I'll put an update to the video if there's anything else that I want to do here. But there's one other horse I found really interesting in here, and that is this two horse, Reckless Spirit, Harold Bondi horse. And the thing I like about Reckless Spirit here is Saez and Bondi have really good statistics together. He's 40% at Saratoga and 25% the rest of the year. Bondi's a 22% barn at Saratoga this meet. He's had two winners already. The horses have been running real well. And I guess there's another horse that was gelded. They're showing a 723 geld date. I can guarantee you that is not accurate. That just happens to be when the horse was entered, and it was therefore notated to the stewards. But this is a horse that, again, could probably step forward off this and has this run style, this more off-the-pace run style. And I can show you the first thing I tend to do is I tend to go through and I'll find horses that have figs. And I've seen this. I expect this horse could move forward a little bit coming into the Bondi barn and also dropping down in class a little, dropping down to this claiming non-winners of 2 lifetime. And if you come over here, you'll see that the two horses I like, this is the two over here. So obviously when you look at optics, the one on the right here is surf distance, and that means that this is on turf at similar distances. The velocity is the vertical axis, and the horizontal axis is the position. So horses to the left like to be forwardly placed. Horses to the right are going to be more rearwardly placed. Horses to the top have more velocity, more ability to effectively run fast than ones down low. And the two horses and that velocity is a little bit funky at times, just so you're aware. It's not sort of all around velocity, it's sort of that turn of foot velocity. So there's a couple of horses up here in this up high in Q1. These also look like speedballs, so they should set up the closers. We should have a fair, honest pace in here, I expect. And the 2 is a horse that looks really good on optics. These sort of Q2 squares, this square means the horse has the ability to finish well, and this Q2 square should be able to close pretty well. So I'm getting 10 to 1, and I'm kind of going to take a stab here. I'll quite agree that the Chad Brown horse is the most likely horse, but full turf field, traffic trouble happens oftentimes in these races, and I think both of these are pretty usable, and I may actually use them somewhat equally. I'm going to lean probably more on the 10, but maybe I use twice the amount of the 10 as I would the 2. And my thought here is to play a double into the next race. There's a maiden race before this and a maiden race after in the 5th as well. And I find those really hard unless there's a workout horse. If there's a works horse, I may turn this into a pick 3 and try to build around that works horse. In this 4th race, I think there's a bit of a vulnerable favorite. This horse is, and of course I can't get it on with how I have. Let me see if I can move this up so people can actually see this horse. There we go. Okay. So it is the 6, the Great Dansky. This horse is even money on the morning line, as it should be. This 74 figure kind of towers over everybody else in here if you're looking at speed figures. The only other horse is Victory Boulevard, the 2 that has anything sort of in that world, and this is a claiming 40. So take note there. Now, why do I feel this horse is a vulnerable favorite? Well, the Great Dansky, if you look at this run style, see this big early time form pace fig. Well, let's go over here and take a look at optics. You're going to see that the 6 is very forwardly placed and is probably going to be on or just off the lead here. That hasn't been working that well on the dirt. The horse is the most likely winner, I will give you that, but I think this horse is pretty darn vulnerable. The horse that I like a lot better is the 2, Victory Boulevard. Victory Boulevard has this much more of a late pace figure. You see the late number is much larger and should be a horse that should be sort of, flying late. And if you see on optics, if we look at the height here, the 2 of them are not really that far apart as far as the vertical means. It means that optics is effectively saying the 2 and the 6 have similar amount of speed, but I like this sort of setup for run style better out of the 2 than out of the 6. So how do I want to play this? Well, there's a couple different ways. One way would just be to box up the 2 horses and the 2 daily double, and to just make a 2x2 daily double, 210 over 26. And I would probably look at the board. If you're that 210 over 26 is going to pay back, and you're going to get 4 or 5 to 1 on your money, just take it. There's nothing wrong at all with that kind of return, because I didn't see a lot of other horses in this sequence that I felt were ones that you would really need to use in those 2 races. If you find out that this 6 is taking a ton of money, which I think could be the case, you can kind of approach it a couple different ways. You're going to have probably prohibitive short-priced favorites in it. That 10-6 is probably going to pay the shortest, so you could do a little bit of what's called a Dutch. So Dutching would be I would place the most money over that 10-6 combination. And by the way, Dutching is just a way of staggering your wager sizes to sort of equalize payouts. And so you can make the largest wager. Maybe you play a $10 double, that's the 10 over the 6. You play a $5 double that is something like 210 over 2, and then 2 over 2-6. And then you play maybe a $2 double that would be 2 over 2. And what that would do is it would put the most leverage towards the shortest price, and you would come out with if you hit it, no matter how the combination comes, you make the same amount of money. You could also get very aggressive here. The aggressive take would be that you're saying, geez, on bias, I don't really like that 6. And I forgot to mention something about the 6 that's also a big thing. Brad Cox is winless on the meet, and I think he had 2 or 3 more starters, so he's like over 13 this meet. Yeah, JJ's getting up, but if you look at last year, Cox only had 8% with JJ up. So it's more than just the run style. There's also, a cold barn. There's a jock trainer combination that doesn't seem to be so hot right now. And there's also the general fact, and I think with the exception of Mike Maker, Kentucky trainers do not ship well to Saratoga. Maker does pretty well. He's not as on fire as he was last year, but again, more reasons that the Great Dansky scares me. So if you want to be even more aggressive, how I would probably target this would be to do a 2x daily double that would be, and this is kind of the structure I sort of like in here, a 2x daily double that would be 10 over 2, and a 1x daily double that would be 2 over 2. So you're putting twice as much emphasis on the 10 in the third race, who is a horse that I think is a little bit suspect, but probably your most likely winner in here. It's not so, nothing crazy scary here, but we can take a little bit of a stand against against this 6, who I think is probably really suspect and probably goes off at even money in the fourth race. Play around, see what the daily double will pays look like, but that's how I like to come up with these structures. I don't. What I really wanted to do here was to have either a lead in or a lead out race. I was hoping that either the second or the fifth would be sort of spread races where I felt I could pick and choose some prices that I liked, and then I could go 2 by 2 by maybe 6, and I could A B those 6, or 6 by 2 by 2 depending on how it's structured out. It didn't quite work out as much for me that way. Races just didn't line up well. I will say that there's going to be another short-priced favorite later on in the card that I think is a pretty darn likely winner, and that's in the 7th race. You're going to have Fast Getaway, Linda Rice trained horse, and again, I start with Figs. This, if you look at here, the last out of this Maker horse was a good Fig. But if you look at everybody else in here, American Mandate's not bad as well. I was able to sort of pick apart everybody else in here, and I'll show you what the optics looks like in this race. And you're going to see when you have that big, gigantic Q1 square on optics, I know I said I don't want a horse that's on the pace, but that is a pretty killer thing to have on the turf. But again, this is a sort of horse that I don't know what sort of trip Jose is going to be able to get here. He's got a horse that's going to be forwardly placed, and I guess we're talking 5.5 on the turf. So he can probably, I would assume, American Mandate. Now again, there's a whole thing of turf speed versus dirt speed. Is American Mandate actually faster? The fig here shows it is. I don't know, but I'm hoping that Jose gets a little bit of speed inside. He can kind of tuck in around the corner, take off, and this horse should have a ton of closing kick. And this should be a pretty likely winner. And I think you can build into or out of this race with either doubles or pick threes. A lot of options there. I won't go into all the specifics. I don't quite know what to make out of Fast Getaway here. The horse is going to be very short priced. I don't know necessarily if I love the pace scenario, so maybe this one falls into one of those potential vulnerable favorites, but I didn't really love anyone else in this race who I felt like I could beat him with. So I'll work on that one, see if I can put something up on Discord for tomorrow. And I do like that earlier sequence, the third race, fourth race sequence, a little bit better. So if you like this type of content, think this format maybe is a little better, let me know in the comments. And I will put in an affiliate link for AM Wager into the description. If you bet at all, you get 10% rebate up to $500 for your first month, which is a phenomenal rebate. I also put a link into Discord. If you're not a Discord person, hop on, chat. It's a very good group of people, and you can learn a lot just sort of looking at how other people approach things, and always feel free to ask questions. So until next, last thing, like and or subscribe. We all do this for fun, and a little bit of a pat on the back, and with a like or a subscribe really means a lot to us. So until next time, good luck at the races.